Yes,
checking
we
with the
are.
IT team. Yeah, are we live? Excellent. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cross Border Cricket. And today's topic is a career in cricket. As you're fully aware, we've put together a show today with the legendary coach, Mickey Arthur. Hi, Mickey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys and Cross Border Cricket, and pleasure to
Excellent.
be
Good.
with you as well, Jagrit.
Thank you, Mickey.
Excellent. And then from the Delhi Capitals Cricket Academy, we have Jagrit Anand, who takes care of, who is the head of cricket with the Delhi Capitals Cricket Academy. Welcome, Jagrit. Welcome on the show.
Thank you, Samir. It's a pleasure to be here. So a big thanks to Cross Border Cricket for arranging this webinar. And of course, it's a pleasure to be here with Mickey Arthur, who's of course one of the most legendary coaches in the cricketing world. Really looking forward to having a good chat with Mickey and everyone else who's joined us here.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic chat. We're going to talk about a lot of spicy stories. There's going to be a lot of gossip out there. Mickey's got his, magical box that he's going to sort of open and unveil a lot of secrets for people, a lot of stories. There's going to be a lot out there to learn for young kids, coaches, parents on how to groom their kids, and really how to make a career in cricket. That's really what our attempt today is going to be. Now, before I introduce the panelists in detail, because you should know in terms of what they've achieved and why they're legends, and why Mickey is a legend in the coaching arena, and why Jagrit is taking care of the Delhi Capitals Cricket Academy. I'd first like to touch on the fact that we've got, I can see all the names come through, and in totality, in the first, 2 minutes, in the first 2 minutes, we have 321 people already logged in and are listening to us. And Mickey and Jagrit, these are from nine nations that we have people.
Wow.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
Lots of these kids, you'll be surprised to know, I can see flags next to some people's names. There's, I can see people from the US of A. It's what, 5 a.m. in the USA right now? But such is the kind of following cricket has sometimes, and so it's just been fantastic to see that come through. I can see some Kiwis and some Aussies. I think they would have finished their dinner right now, right?
Yep.
I guess so.
Yeah, so big shout out to all you guys who've made this possible. Your questions have been coming in for the last a week or two since we announced that we were going to go live with the DC Cricket Academy and with Mickey Arthur. To take this forward, before I introduce my panelists, I'd just like to set some rules in terms of just let everyone know how we're going to carry this forward. What we're planning to do is that we've got questions that have come in from viewers. We will try and take in as many viewers as we can live, so that they can either ask questions to Mickey himself or to Jagrit, who's representing Delhi Capitals. So that'll be a very big learning. We'll try and take as many live. If we can't, please pardon us. There'll be more events that you can follow on Cross Border Cricket in the near future. Along with that, our experts will answer all the questions. So let's move on and introduce our first panelist, which is Mickey Arthur, the legend coach that he is.
Steady on the legend, but I just try and do my best.
No, Mickey, you truly are, because I want everyone to know that 4 countries you've coached. So you started your career with South Africa, you moved on to Australia, and then moved on to Pakistan, and now you're heading Sri Lankan cricket.
Yep.
So you've really been around the world and done a fantastic job of that.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sam. It's been an absolute privilege during my time to be able to do a job that you're so passionate about, and something that I love. Every morning I get out of bed, I love what I'm doing, and I love seeing players develop, and I love seeing players develop at the highest level. But not only at the highest level, it's about everybody becoming the best player they can possibly be. And that might mean you become a Baba Azam, and it might mean you become the best player in your junior team. And funny enough, all those little ingredients are very much the same. It's just the different levels of skill that the guys have. So today we want to try and unlock that little bit that makes every one of these attendees the best they can be.
Yes, I'd also like to touch the fact that it's not just the 4 test teams that you have coached. You've actually taken 3 of them that you worked with to ICC rank #1, which is just absolutely commendable. We'll have a lot of questions around that, Mickey.
Yeah, no, we will. But sometimes as a coach, and we'll touch onto it, but it's giving the direction. It's setting the goals, it's giving the structure, and it's creating the environment for the players to be the best they can be, So I always talk about giving the players the roots to grow and the wings to fly, because the roots to grow is the technique, it's the structure, it's organization. The wings to fly is you've got to let every player play within his own character. Everybody's characters are different. Some are introverted, some are extroverted. Some guys are scared of asserting themselves. Some guys want to do it all the time. So it's just allowing the players the freedom. Because I've found as a coach, if you give them the proper structure, you give them the proper technique, you give them the proper goal to make them what they want to be, and then you allow them to go. You give them that belief, and you give them that confidence in their game, and that's when you get the best out of the players for sure.
Yeah, it's commendable. To add to that, the list, Mickey, is never ending, right? So, you've even coached BPL and PSL teams, so you've been around the world with T20 leagues as well. And I'll tell you what, I've got questions which are unending; they just don't finish. So we'll have a lot of that coming up.
Well, I hope we can get to everybody and make sure everybody gets something very, very worthwhile out of the 2 hours we spend with them.
Yes. And the last one that I want to touch on is that you took a number 8 team to #1. You won the Champions Trophy in 2017 against India.
Yes.
Being an Indian, I'll admit I wasn't exactly excited to see that match. But what a good job done.
No, thank you, Sam. And listen, a lot of credit goes to the players, because ultimately, at the end of the day, they're the guys that got to get out there and do it. We can't influence how they play. We can make sure that they're the best prepared they can be. But once they get out on the ground, you've got to have that belief in them. You've got to let them make their decisions. And that was one of those days. Fakir Zaman was outstanding. Every one of our players was simply outstanding. So that is the rewarding part for a coach, is when you see the players that you've coached develop and achieve something like that. It just makes it all so worthwhile.
Yes, excellent. So again, welcome on the show, Mickey.
Thank you.
So now I'd like to just shift focus a little bit to Jagrit Anand. Jagrit is heading Delhi Capitals Cricket Academy today. So welcome, Jagrit.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much.
A source of inspiration for a lot of who want to make it in the IPL. So no, Jagrit, I was saying you'll be a serious source of inspiration for people who want to make it in the IPL. Can you hear me?
Samir, I think I can hear you. So what I've learned in my journey of cricket so far is that children who start playing cricket at a young age have different kind of goals, and initially it might have been to play Ranji Trophy or for the Indian team. Now suddenly the entire focus has shifted to IPL, because we've seen how much this league has grown. It's it's been a quantum leap in cricket in the last 13 years. So yes, of course, it's going to be something very lucrative for all the youngsters who joined us from all parts of the world today. And I will definitely be talking to them about what best practices they can do, not just to play for the IPL, but also to play for their respective countries and the first-class cricket in their respective nations. So yes, of course, what Delhi Capitals do, how we train children, and in the academies, how we nurture our kids to play the best cricket. I'm sure I can share a lot of that today.
Yes, I think that will be fantastic. I just would like to add and let people know of your credentials as well as a player, not just in the position that you hold. So for everyone over there, Jagrit is not just in a management position. He has actually played Ranji Trophy cricket for Delhi as well, and done exceedingly well at that too. Jagrit has played and he has been chosen for the KKR franchise as well. So that's going to be quite a discussion. That he wears the DC shirt in front of us, but he's actually also taking care of the KKR franchise. So he's worked with the played for the KKR franchise at one
Yes.
point in time. In addition to that, he's played the Challenger Trophy in India, and very importantly, it is also important to note he's played 4 years in the UAE, and he's played 2 years in the USFA as well. So he's really traveled world over with cricket. How was that experience, Jagrat?
That was wonderful, Samir. When initially the offer came to me to play as a professional for a club in Dubai, it was back in 2011, and I really didn't know much about the cricket in UAE except that they play during a few months some serious leagues. So I went there. It was off season for us, but once I was there and I started playing, we played in some of the best stadiums: the Sharjah Stadium, the ICC grounds, the Dubai Stadium. We call it the Ring of Fire. So, it was a great experience to see so much talent flourishing in the UAE. It was phenomenal. I'm sure Mickey's seen it too, when he was coaching Pakistan, their home state now being Dubai. There's so much talent. We've got so many Pakistanis over there, a lot of Sri Lankans, a lot of Indian people playing cricket. So from a growth perspective as a player, it was a great experience to be a professional. You've got responsibilities when you play for a team. And similarly in the US, I didn't have too many expectations, to be honest, over there. But then at some point of time, I did feel the heat of the competition because I was playing with the best players over there. There were players from West Indies, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Afghanistan, India. There's so much talent over there, and really, if you play as a professional, you get to learn a lot. And this is one thing that cricket offers to you. It's a great privilege to be able to travel, meet so many people, and learn from them. So it was a great experience overall, is what I would say. And of course, the domestic cricket in India is, as everyone knows, it's an honor to be representing your state or your IPL team. So I was lucky, I was fortunate that I was selected for these teams, and I had a great journey.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we're going to dive in as we had promised. We're going to dive into some questions now, right? Let's start with a question we have, and I've just asked my IT team to bring in Rohan Handa from the UK. So we're trying to get him on board. If we can get his picture live with us, that'll be brilliant. Until then, let me ask the question that he has. I can see it coming through, and he wants to ask this to Mickey. Mickey, question is very simple. He says, "What's been your biggest coaching challenge in your entire career?" It's a generic question that he has.
Look, and it's a good question. The coaching challenges you have is coming into an environment, coming into a team, and then having a look at the culture. You've then always got to work your style around the culture and the values of that particular country that you're working with. But then, very realistically, you've got to set some goals up. You've got to set some goals. You've got to understand a brand that you want to play, and that brand has got to be a successful brand. And then you sort of accumulate and build a team around the brand that you think is going to give you some success, and then you allow those players to play. But there's got to be some serious KPIs down the line. So, in short, coming into a structure, it's about dismantling what's there and making sure that you put the structures in place, the goals in place, and the brand in place to have short-term success, but because that keeps us coaches in jobs, but then also to make sure that you work and you get a sustainable success, you get a sustainable environment. For a coach, the best thing that can ever happen is when you go, because there's a shelf life to coaching in any country, when you go, you want to have left a legacy. You want the people to say, you know what, when that coach was in our environment, he has left something, and that's something that the players always fall back on, or the system falls back on. And that's ultimately when you know success. So the biggest challenges is coming in and working out a brand, working out what the KPIs are going to be to give you sustainable success and short-term success, and making sure that you have the players to live that brand. And that's what makes it so exciting.
Right. So I just like to add to that. I'm deviating a bit, but I can see close to about 405 people logged in now. And I'll tell you what, with 405 people logged in, I think we've got a lot of them asking us one burning question before we move anywhere else. One burning question is, Mickey, and for the rest of our viewers who don't know, Mickey was actually a part of the highest ever run chase that South Africa accomplished, which was they scored 438 against Australia. And all these guys, including names such as Amrit Kore, there's a gentleman called Babar from Pakistan. There's Mitchell.
Not Babar Azam, is it?
And they no, not Babar Azam is yet. We've got them asking the question that how did you motivate Herschel Gibbs that day? How did you actually end up chasing down 438? It was an unknown. Those days you didn't have scores like these. How did that ever happen?
To be honest,
the inside stories, Mickey.
Well, yeah, I'll give you the all short inside stories in a very, very quick news flash. Yeah, it was a day of absolute emotions. You know, we bowled poorly. I remember the mascot at the ground sitting with his head in his hands. I remember crowd leaving. And we've got to remember the context of this game was the series against Australia, who was always South Africa's nemesis at that point in time. It was an outstanding Australian side. It was a one-day series in South Africa where South Africa hadn't beaten Australia, and the series was tied at 2-2. So it was ultimately like a grand final, and we were very keyed up for it because we wanted to win that so badly. So it looked like a disaster of a day, and I'll never forget. And it's been widely documented at the lunch break. Jacques Kallis walking in and throwing his boots in the corner and saying, "Well, coach, I think the bowlers have done their job. I think that's only about par." And with that sort of broke the ice, and everybody had a laugh. And then I'll never forget standing up, because I'm always a coach with structure. So I was getting up, and I'd always try and put up a little noteboard where we sort of try to put some targets in place. And I'll never forget standing up, and during that lunch break, I was trying to work these targets out, and I was putting lines through it because it was just looked so unreal. And I remember writing, we want to be at 90 in the power plus 10, obviously 10 overs. We want to be at 90, but we only want to be one wicket down. And I remember standing up and presenting that to the dressing room. And I looked at Graham and I looked at Herschel, and they just both burst out laughing. And you know what? I said, you know what, guys, stuff it. There's no targets. Let's just go out and bat. And it was so interesting that the run rate never, ever escalated. So it started at about 8.5, I think. And the run rate never escalated during that whole run chase, except when it got to the point where we actually thought we could win it. Because once you start getting to the fact where you think you can win it, then suddenly the expectation comes in and the realization that, hang on, we can sort of win this. So that sort of freedom and pressure just starts getting just a little bit tighter. And then the man of all, for all occasions, was Mark Boucher, who came in and played exceptionally well. But to go back to Herschel Gibbs had a massive night the night before. Now, the thing you'll have to know with Hirsch, and as Hirsch is an insomniac, Hirsch doesn't sleep. So Hirsch wanted to go out there. He was too nervous. So Hirsch had probably a couple of drinks too many. And I'll never forget going to that morning to the ground, and only Graham Smith knew about it. Only myself and Graham, and we had a discussion about it. And we were both livid.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget sitting down and saying, Hirsch, we're not making a scene of it. We're not making a scene of it. But you better do something special today, because at the end of the game, you're in for the high jump. And of course, Hirsch went and played that massive, magnificent innings, 175. And when he got out, he walked. I was sitting on the first chair in the viewing area, and Hirsch walked past me, and all he did was he nodded his head and gave me a wink, as if to say, "Coach, is that good enough?" You know, in Hirsch's little arrogant way. And it was so good that he went out and he just played with that absolute freedom that set the game up for us, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful day. We just think about, back at the end of the game when we thought we could win it. I remember the same Herschel and Graham Smith sitting in the toilet. They couldn't watch. They had toilet paper in their ears, so they couldn't hear the crowd. Who had actually left at lunchtime, came back into the ground in absolute full voice, and it just gives me goosebumps talking about it. And who would ever forget the most important run that Mackay and Tini's ever scored? I thought when Retney was running with him and we were 9 down and we needed 1 to tie 2 to win with Mackay on strike, I thought if he bowls the perfect Yorker and bowls Mackay, can you imagine trying to chase 4-3-4 and being 433 all out? It would have just been such an anticlimax. And somehow Mackay has dug a leg side Yorker to third man. I don't know how he did that. It is beyond me. The ball just missed the off stump as it went down to third man, and I'll never forget the elation that went with it. So what an incredible day. And to answer the question though, the best thing we did was we actually in the dressing room said, you know what, guys, let's just go and play with that freedom, because at the moment we've got nothing to lose. And the guys went and played with that freedom. And within that, there was a little coaching lesson that sometimes for us as coaches, we can just put too much pressure on our players. Let them go and play, because you know what? You've got to trust the players. You've got to trust your players. And that goes within any team you're coaching. You've got to trust your players to get out there and do the job for you. And they found a way. And I learned a massive lesson there that day.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, so was it easy coaching someone like Herschel Gibbs?
I loved Herschel. There's a myth.
Even with him doing what he did the night prior to the game.
Well, it almost became a little bit of a joke. Hey, Hirsch, it's a big game. Make sure you don't get too much sleep tonight. And that's obviously tongue in cheek. But the one thing that I've noticed is the public persona that people think of players. So you think of a Herschel Gibbs who's a maverick. Herschel's a maverick player. You can't keep Herschel restrained for too long. He's an unbelievable fielder, and what a player. There's one thing though that people don't see, and people don't see the work that he puts in off the field. Herschel Gibbs was as professional as you can of any player that I've coached in terms of the work he did when he practiced. He was always the fittest. He always watched his diet massively, and he hit balls. He hit millions of balls in the nets. His innings just didn't happen. They happened because he worked so damn hard at his game.
Excellent. I think that's the thing, that work ethic is what we're that's a big thing that kids need to understand over here as well. I think I'm going to just sort of move towards Jagat as well. Jagat, what do you think about work ethic, and how are you instilling that within your kids when you coach them at the DC cricket academies? Because that must be, everyone talks about mental and skill. So how do you actually work around all this stuff?
Like Mickey just mentioned, that the job of the coach to a very great extent is to give the child that freedom to play, and I feel that is very, very important in our academies as well. And we often have these chats with coaches as well as to how they should give that freedom to children to play. Because when a young child walks into your academy who's of 8 or 9 years old or 10 years old, parents have a lot of expectations from that young bloke, that he's going to do wonders. He's going to be the next Sachin Tendulkar or the Virat Kohli or the Anil Kumble of India. So the child automatically has so much pressure, apart from the other pressures that they carry on their shoulders of excelling in studies. So our first and foremost principle is to let them enjoy. When they come to the field, all the coaches who are handling them at a junior level, they just ask to make them enjoy the game, to enjoy the sport, to enjoy the feeling of being among so many more children, and sharing a common platform, sharing common dreams. So what happens then is that instead of having pressure, the child starts to feel empowered by his surroundings. As soon as the transition of being under pressure to being empowered and enjoying game happens, they start expressing themselves, and that is where we need to get them to. Once you are able to express yourself fully, that is that's most important thing I feel. It's not just in cricket. I feel it's important in every field. Because when you express is when you're actually enjoying that thing. You're in the moment. You're doing your best to achieve that particular goal you're walking towards. So that's what we tell our coaches all the time, that make sure that the child does not feel under pressure. They get to do what they want, because that's also a very important factor. When children come, you often hear complaints from parents that our child didn't get to bat or our child didn't get to bowl today. So we want to ensure that every child is engaged in some of the activity, and when they go back home, they're happy to have utilized the time at the
Yeah.
academy. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
the
Now,
good.
Jagrat, I'd like to bring on our next viewer. We have Rahul coming in from the USA. Harsh, can we get Rahul online with us? I'll ask you the question anyways. Jagrat, this goes to the DC. Quickly, it asks the question that he's got an interesting question to ask you, which came in way before, which says, why has Delhi Capitals taken Carey when you already had Rishabh Pant with you, and why have you taken Jason Roy when you already had the likes of Shikhar Dhawan and the likes of so many openers that you Prithvi Shaw, so many openers that you're sitting with at the DC? What's the strategy behind that?
So, to be honest, Sam, the way the mind at the top works, when we have so many experienced people sitting there at the auction, sometimes it becomes really important to get the best pool of talent into your squads. Because now let's talk about Alex Carey for a minute here. That we know how well Alex Carey has been doing recently. He's just came into the international cricket with his storm. He's been excellent for Australia. He's got a very unorthodox way of playing, and we see how quickly he can get runs. And Rishabh is of a similar talent too. He's also exactly the same kind of player who's just come in unorthodox, and he gets runs out of nowhere. Now how grueling cricket has become of late, right? There's so much pressure of matches, mentally, physically. There's so much that you need to put in, and even the T20 is a short format. You need to really put in your heart and soul out there in the field. So we want to make sure that we are able to provide that cushion to our squad. We need to get the right kind of experience inside the squad as well, because someone like Alex Carey, just imagine the amount of experience he brings to you, to your squad. We've got youngsters, we've got the Tushar Deshpandes in the team who's just very new. We've got Lalit Yadav in the team who's also very new, and a lot of other youngsters from different places. So just to share that amount of talent in a team, share their experiences, to learn from players like Alex Carey or Shikhar Dhawan or Jason Roy. He was he's been part of the best England team that we've ever seen, in so many years. So these players are, not just important from the point of view of being in the playing 11. That's obviously, each game has a different strategy, depending on the conditions or the stage that we are in, or the particular game strategy that we want to walk into.
Yes,
so it's about giving yourself more options, and giving your options which are the best out there in the world, without really bothering that you might have a Shikhar Dhawan, or you might have Ajinkya Rahane there, you have Shreyas Iyer there, who are like the pillars of the team, who've been taking the team forward since last year, and some even before that. It's more about having the right options for any kind of attack or any kind of strategy that you want in a particular match, because we don't want to leave any stone unturned in bringing the bringing the cup, the IPL Cup, to Delhi. So that's the main strategy of the best pool of talent in the squad.
Yes. I realize that. I mean, I think that's a fantastic answer to Rahul. I hope he's happy and satisfied. Seems to be some technical glitches, I think, at the other end. I think where students and coaches aren't being able to sort of come live with us. We'll resolve that as we move on. We want them here with us to talk to us and ask the questions live with Jagrat and Mickey, of course. Mickey, I've got a very interesting question for you. Am I audible to you, Mickey?
Yes, I've got you. Yep.
I've got a very interesting question. This comes from a gentleman by the name of Nathan Maglis from Johannesburg.
Oh, yeah.
So Nathan says, and it's a tricky one. It's an interesting one. I think for all coaches, it's a brilliant question. It says, how does one go about working with a player who's exposed to more than one coach, and none of his coaches agree to the role best suited for him when he goes out to bat or bowl? How do you handle that boy?
Well, look, and this is part of quite a good question that the modern day coach faces a lot of now. So, And this is one of the reasons why I like coaching international teams, because internationally, you set about a program. So you set about a 12-month of the year program for a player, and you can set it. You look after a player mentally, technically, and physically. And so what we do is we set up all these player plans for every player, and we know and track them as to where they're going to be every time. It's then up to me as the international coach to then liaise with the coaches at their franchises to make sure that we give the player a common message. And that is so important. I think you would see that a lot, perhaps, down the line in the junior ranks, where without wanting to sound or blame anybody, coaches become a lot more insecure. Coaches are very insecure then around their little areas. So then and once a player becomes quite a good player, there's a lot of coaches that want to tag their name to this young fella, and I think that's just egotistical. I think coaches have to realize it's about the player. It's not about them as a coach. It's about making the player the best he can be. And I've seen a lot of coaches down the line ruin players that way, because they don't sit and have and spend the time to talk about this player's development. So if you're a coach out there, make sure you have that communication. Make sure the player buys into what you want to do. And then one rule that I've got in any environment I've ever coached in is there's one consistent message that goes to that player, because otherwise you just confuse him. And as this fellow from South Africa said, you end up ruining the player, and coaches can't ever do that.
Yeah, of course, and that's a sin. We should never do that. We need to, hone this talent rather than let it go just because of the coach's fault or anything of that sort.
Because ultimately, it's about the player.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Sam, if you would allow me for a minute, I would just narrate one very small incident quickly about one of the best players of India who I personally saw going through this, but in a good way. The coach was actually someone who understood. So can I just share that for a minute, if you allow me?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so this particular incident is about Gautam Gambhir, and I'm sure everyone sitting here knows about him. He's been a legend for India. So, Sanjay Bharadwaj sir had been his coach, and I also used to train under him for a very long period of time before I played Ranji Trophy. And I remember this one incident where, Gautam Bhaiya was facing a lot of trouble playing spin bowling. So he wanted to get rid of that, and Sanjay sir, of course, being the legendary coach he is, gave all his inputs. At the end of the day, he did realize that, the late legend, Mr. Parthasarathy Sharma, he used to play for Rajasthan, and he's one of the best players of spin we've seen ever in the country. So he specially requested Mr. Parthasarathy Sharma come all the way to Delhi and coach Gautam Bhaiya to play spin bowling. So this is one example of a coach who's already at a very big stage, who's produced so many players who think, the first class in the international cricket. He figured that he was not able to correctly solve the problem, and for him, it was most important that Gautam Bhaiya could, get rid of the problem that he was facing. So he actually took help from another coach to make sure that problem is not faced. And then we all saw the results of it. Being an opening batsman, Gautam Gambhir was a nightmare for all spinners. So that transition happened because the coach let go of their insecurities. So yes, Mickey's made a really important.
I think that's a very valid point that you just made, because it is true. We need to let the talent come out. We need to let them explore as well. It just can't be just controlled in a controlled environment. That's a very valid point. I can see a lot of people logging on. I'll just take some names. Rutvik Iyer from Kenya. I've got Rishabh from India. I've got Abhinav from India. I've got Siddharth. All of them asking a lot of questions. And we'll start going one by one again. So we've got a question now, which comes in from Torren in the UK. Torren, again, Harsh, if you can get Torren online for us while I ask his question. This question goes out to Mickey. Torren, he says that we're seeing more and more people signing with the IPL. So more and more British players is what he's after, signing with the IPL team. And they're now the World Cup winners. Do you think their experience in Indian conditions in the IPL will make England eventually favorites for the 23 World Cup as well?
It's a good question, and I think there's a lot of good countries now. I think there's a lot of good teams that are playing in 2020 cricket. England, when Trevor Bayliss made sure under Andrew Strauss, they made winning the World Cup a massive focus, and they thought one of their sort of competitive edges that they could have was sending their players away to the IPL. So making sure that the players went and rubbed shoulders with the best players in the world who were all there at that time, played in a very competitive environment where it's pretty cutthroat. It's a high intensity pressurized environment. So they wanted their players to experience all that because they knew that would keep them in a good stead come the World Cup, and that was very, very successful. So yes, one could say that it definitely worked for them. But I think the leagues around the world now, some of them are very, very good, and the quality of cricket is outstanding, and it's very beneficial for overseas players to go and experience different conditions, different environments, learn from different cultures, and then that certainly they come back a far better player for it. So I think the result, the proof of the pudding was there for England. Prioritised white ball cricket, went and won the World Cup. Whether that makes them win the 2020 World Cup, I'm not sure. I think Sri Lanka's going to win it anyway.
I hope for you, Sri Lanka does win it, but we're also there with the Indian flag flying high, and I'm sure we've got Pakistanis, we've got British, we've got English people, we've got Aussies, Kiwis. Everyone wants their team to win.
DC's got players to make we're not biased.
There you go. Coming back to DC, I've got a very interesting question that's come up for you, Jagrit. And meanwhile, while I ask him that question, Mickey, I think there's some technical glitch. We can't. I'm getting feedback saying that we can't view you, Mickey. If you can log in and log out again, if that's fine.
Oh, sure, but I can see all of you.
Yeah, you've been frozen for about 5 to 7 minutes, and I thought it'll get better. But I've got some messages I can see on the viewing gallery saying that we can't see Mr. Mickey Arthur. So I just thought I'd let you know that.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, you're crystal clear to me. Jagrat, are you good with? Can you see Mickey and hear him?
He's perfectly audible, but yes, his video's been stuck for like 5-7 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. So yes.
Okay. Let me try to fix it up.
The audience wants every part of you. They want to see you, talk to you, hear from you.
Let me see what happens.
Okay. While Mickey does that, Jagrat, I've got an amazing question out for you. So I've got Aisha, Khushbu, Suraj, and Chris. They've all asked a question, which is around the fact that I've got an 11-year-old, they're saying, that who plays cricket in Delhi. Okay. And they're saying that, listen, what is the way to chart out the plan? I want my son or daughter to play IPL cricket. I want them to play for the Delhi Capitals, or I want them to play for the KKR, or I want them to play for Rajasthan Royals. But where do I send them? Do I send them to an academy down the road and they're going to make it from there? Or do I send them specifically to the DC, and the DC Cricket Academy says, you know what, we've got your kid now and they're going to make it for Delhi Capitals? Is it as simple as that, or do you go through trials? Can you just shed some light on that for everyone?
Yes, sure, Samir. I would love to, in fact, clear this out. First of all, I would like to say that I respect all the coaches and all the academies which are there around Delhi, around the country, and around the world, because I'm sure every single coach out there is working really hard to make good players, and that should be the objective of every coach over there. Now, how we differ, I would say, because of being under the umbrella of Delhi Capitals primarily is, one, we've got access to some of the best coaches in the world, and we have that resource pool from wherein we build our curriculums. There's a proper chain of operations that we have in DC Cricket Academy, where every single person who's a part of the academy, right from the coaches to the technical heads to the head of the academies to even the larger staff of Delhi Capitals, they are engaged, they're focused on giving the best facilities and giving the best training practices which come from all over the world. It is not something which is the biased opinion of one particular person or the training style of one particular person. It is actually a cumulative effort of so many different people and so many different brains which comes together for that one student who walks into our academy. So that is how much importance we give to each and every student. Now, the second part is that, as we are growing now, for the last 6, 7 years that we have been operating, we've only focused on growing 2 academies because we wanted to see what are the right things to do and, how to develop a stronger core and how to make our roots strong. And now that we're confident of our roots after producing more than 30 national level players, we are now expanding massively, first through Delhi, NCR, North India, and then eventually everywhere across the country and the globe. Now, how that would help students, like an 11-year-old who walks into our academy, is that they're immediately getting a lot of exposure in terms of the different tournaments that we do, in terms of the set curriculums of training that we have. So if you're practicing in a DC academy in Delhi or you're practicing in a DC academy in, let's say, another state or another country, curriculums are going to be the
So,
same.
Jagger, the
Yes.
question is, I think this 11-year-old hit it on the head. I mean, there's three, in fact, four of them who've asked that question. Can I play for DC while I'm training with another academy, or do I need to only join DC Cricket Academy to play for Delhi Cricket, or do you have trials? I think that's pretty
So,
much
yes.
that they want to know so that they can go for it.
Okay, so DC, as I said, DC is Delhi Capitals is out there to promote cricket throughout the world. It's not just focused on their own academies. Academies is a way of reaching out to them so that we can ensure that we are able to give them the best training practices. However, if there is a child who's practicing in another academy and who's outstanding, we are not going to be biased that he's not in our academy, so we won't select them. We have very, very fair trials which go on. We have talent scout programs that go on before IPL, where we even conduct open trials for everyone around. Like just right now, we've appointed Mr. Vijay Thaya as the head scout, and we all know that he's such an experienced coach. He's got the experience of working with the top
no doubt.
teams, and he's also worked with the Kolkata Knight Riders in the past. So he's seen it all, right? So he's a head scout. He's out there to hunt talent from every corner. And we were about to have the Pacers, camp as well. Unfortunately, it could not happen because of the pandemic. But his vision was to invite people from all over, hold the open trials, and then select the best out of the lot, just to ensure that the actual talent doesn't get missed out. So that's what DC's objective is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And to go further while Mickey joins in, I can see. I don't know whether you're seeing all those questions come up on your screen as well from a lot of people from Kenya. I've got some people from Italy who have just joined in. I didn't know. We've reached out all as far as Italy as well now. So that's fantastic. So another question, Mickey, you're back. Welcome back.
Am I back? Can you see me? There we go, boys.
Excellent. So we're just building on DC. Just one more question which I received, which is a question which comes in. Jagger, you played in the UAE, right? For 4 years, you said.
Right.
And so you must be aware of these academies. I've got the YTC over there, and I've got the Desert Cup. So I've got parents, Suraj, Rajiv, Antesh, their parents. They're asking a very simple question. That the future for our kids. We're living in Dubai. We want to actually come to India and play for Delhi Capitals. Because we believe that playing, it's better to come back and play franchise cricket than to play for the UAE. This is their question. Is that what you felt? And do you think you can get those guys to come and play for you at the Delhi Capitals?
So, Samir, yes, of course, everyone is, it's open for all. Everyone can come and give the trials when we have them going on. And of course, when we also conduct our trials, we do invite people based on the performances for their respective, countries. So I would say whichever country you might be in, even if it's an associate country, focus on what you are doing there. Focus on playing the highest level of cricket to get maximum exposure. A great example of this is, Rashid from Afghanistan, a leg spinner. Afghanistan was an upcoming nation, but he turned tables around for not just his nation, but also for Sunrisers Hyderabad, and he's the most wanted leg spinner in the world now. So never underestimate the place that you're playing in already, because that is where we actually pick you up from. If you're doing extremely well for your nation, even if it's an associate one, you will get noticed.
Yeah.
However, if you're younger and you want to practice with us, then we will be planning more and more high performance camps where you can be a part of our tournaments, you can be a part of our camps, and that is where our head scouts can then see the talent that you have and then group it, and then eventually you can play for the DC franchisee if you're consistent with your performances and your efforts.
So the answer is that it is possible to be living in the UAE or living in Kenya or living in even Italy. I think we've got someone from Milan who's just joined in who's saying, can I play from DC? So the answer is yes. I would take it as you play well and you get in.
Yes, you play well, and that's what IPL is all about. You need to play well. You need to prove yourself, and then of course,
So
you get that.
Jagrit, you're inaudible, and you're also just frozen out a little bit. I'd request if you can also just sign in.
Sure.
Meanwhile, moving along, we've got Mickey, and we got Mickey back. So Mickey, there's a question from Ishan Mehra in India, and it's a funny one. He's asking you, till when can we not use saliva on the ball? when is this?
Well, that
They're talking about putting wax on the ball.
Well, it's a very interesting question, and I sit on the International Cricket Council Cricket Committee, and we've actually got a meeting on Monday where we are discussing that. So it'll be very interesting to see the outcome of it. I think for me that I think if we're playing cricket, we're playing in a biosecure environment anyway, which means that if we're in the biosecure environment, it means that everybody's safe. So, I think I'd hate to see that going out the game. And the reason I say that is because we've just, as an ICC cricket committee, have just put some big rules in place. At the end of last year, based off the Sandpaper Gate, in terms of punishing players, in terms of punishing people more for that offence, and now we kind of the next year saying, okay, I know we've had a pandemic which nobody saw, but we're sort of saying, oh, now we're going to make it legal, but you got to do it in front of the umpire. So for me that's just it's almost a little bit contradictory, if you like, and I think we need to just get one consistent answer to that question, and one consistent answer to every young player in the world who understands what the rules are now.
Yes, I think so. So you're saying we're going to get to know the future of this for Ishan only next week?
Well, we've got a committee meeting on Monday where it's part of the discussion panel. So I think that will only then it's got to go up the various channels. So I think that we'll only know once international cricket really starts again, I guess.
Yeah, I can understand that. So we've got a question coming in from Canada and from the US, from California. So, the question from California is, Mickey, would you like to come to the US to train? Would you like to come to California?
I would love to go to California. We could certainly go to California. We could certainly go and train there. That would be amazing. And it was interesting listening to Jagrit earlier about his time in the USA. I think that is an untapped market, and I know there is a big push at the moment to revitalize cricket in the USA. They're talking about this US Open competition that might go ahead, and that would be fantastic for the game and fantastic to get another massive nation interested in playing cricket. The cricket development that could go on in America would be something that would be very, very exciting to be part of one day, because you'll have so many different nationalities all into this massive untapped market, and the what you could do with that would be very, very exciting. So in short, yes, I'd love to go to California and coach some cricket one day.
Yes, and Jagrit, just building on that, I mean, the same question can go out to you as well, saying that, listen, I'm assuming the fact that you can also open an academy in California one day, or in Toronto, yes, as these two gentlemen asked me the question.
Right. Now we would love to. I mean, the more global our reach is, and as much as we can spread our footprint out there, it's said that Delhi Dilwalo ki hai. So we also want that every heart, in every heartbeat there should be Delhi Capitals. So we would love to reach out to every place possible, and with the true emotion of spreading cricket, promoting it, and making sure that every single child out there who has a dream of becoming a cricketer has the opportunity to fulfill it. It's very important, I feel.
Yeah. And I'm going to route back to one of the most important questions, which I'm seeing just come in left, right, and center right now. Almost everyone's asking one question now, Mickey. They would like to know from you, what is the special key ingredient, like we had in the teaser video? They would like to know, what is that key ingredient that makes an ABD? Because there's someone over here who says, I want to be the next ABD. and someone here saying, I'd like to play like Warner, but I'm right-handed. So what is it that makes that champion mindset? How do you become a champion? Or Babar?
Well,
Yeah.
there's just one word, and that's hard work. It's hard. Yes, the guys have got a lot of talent, and they certainly very talented with their games. But every one of the best players in the world, they work extremely hard, day in and day out on their cricket. They consistently improving themselves. They consistently setting themselves some realistic targets, some realistic goals, and all of them have that quest to be the best in the world. They've got that championship mindset, which you're kind of born with. But then you've got to be pushed by coaches. As I say, you've got to be pushed mentally, physically, and technically. Because if you push that player and set that player realistic targets, then the world can be his oyster. So for any young player listening to this who wants to know what that little ingredient is, that ingredient is hard work, it's dedication, and it's a will to win. That's all. And if you've got a little bit of talent, those three things, with that little bit of talent, will make you an incredible cricketer one day. But you've got to be very single-minded and very, very focused on your end goal.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, so we, moving on. I've got a funny one coming in from Sean, who's written in from Harare, and I've got Yash Gutka and Udhav Jani as well. I think who had written earlier on the chat. I think are they from DC? They may be from DC. Some people have asked, as test cricketers and one-day cricketers, do you get business class tickets when you fly? Is that one of the perks?
Yes,
there's a lighter one. I just pushed it through.
Yes, we very, very lucky to be able to travel business class. Yes, we do. But we laugh about it. But when you're expecting players, because the tours have been cut down in length now a lot. So it's almost you arrive at a destination having traveled 13 or 14 hours. You then have got to get out, and within 2 days you've got to be training, and you've got to be getting your game to where it can possibly be, and particularly for our bowlers. The bowlers can't travel 13 or 14 hours, and then you expect them to deliver for you 48 hours later. So yes, it is. The boys do travel business class, but there is also a reason to that, and that's to make sure that the guys can be as prepared as they possibly can when they hit the ground at their destination.
Of course. The next question is an interesting one. It's a little bit more serious in that way. It's quite technical as well. Mickey, and I think this will go straight to you and down your alley, where I've got Gaurav from Bangalore. Gaurav wants to ask the question where he says, Mickey, you've coached South Africa, Australia, Pakistan, and now with Sri Lanka. How has it been different for you in terms of culture, in terms of technique, in terms of pitches, people, and ego? There's a lot in there, and I'll bounce it off to Jagrat after we get your valuable input.
Yeah, well, to answer that, and to answer it very, very simply, and I touched on it earlier in the show, you've got to come on and you've got to assess the culture of the team that you're coaching, because that plays a massive role. Somebody once said you've never experienced coaching until you've coached in the subcontinent, and I totally concur with that, because of the range of emotions, the emotional anguish that the fans have to see their team be the best they can be and win all the time. Cricket is clearly in the subcontinent the be-all and end-all for a lot of the countries. There are extra pressures. The values of the team are very, very important to me. And again, it goes to what I said right at the top of the show when we spoke about setting up a brand, setting up a value system, and then putting all your players around that brand and value system in order to get them to where they need to be to achieve the goals that you set. So it is very different. You've got to sit back, and when you come into any environment, the advice I can give is come in, sit back, watch it unfold, watch for a little while before you put You try and put your stamp on the team. So culturally, it is very different. But that makes it exciting, and that makes it challenging for coaches as well. Because the one thing I'll tell you is, wherever you coach, cricketers are almost exactly the same. The microcosm of the dressing room is almost very similar in any country, in any part of the world. So one brand that you have will ultimately fit another with the modifications around the cultural system that goes with it. But I've been very, very happy to work with some wonderful players, to work with some wonderful people. And I tell you what, cricketers are good people. They're generally good people, and all they want to do is they've got a burning ambition and desire to be the best they can be and to win games for their country.
Yeah. So, Jagrit, excuse me. Jagrit, I would like to ask you as well, what sort of cultural differences did you face when you went from India? Because a lot of these kids who are actually joined us right now, many of them obviously want to know, how do I improve my batting? How do I improve my bowling? We will get into proper discussions on technique somewhere along the program. We'll cover. So all of you, I can see too many questions coming on. How do I bat well, bowl well, spin bowling, leg spin, everything, all of that. We'll come to that. Prior to that, I'm just wanting to know, and this is really important, where you went as a young kid from India to play in the UAE or to play in the USA. Similarly, in my playing days, I actually went, I was, playing cricket in Singapore, and then we went on a tour to Australia. And I know how difficult it was when I went to the backup. The length changed,
Yes.
we had to play a different line altogether. Where you stand, your guard, everything just changes. So what do you think? How did you manage culture, egos, and all that as well?
Okay, so I'm going to start the first one with my tour to Australia. This was back when I was selected for KKR. So back then the coach was John Buchanan, and we'd gone to Brisbane to play. And it was actually very, very overwhelming for us, because as soon as we walked into the stadium, right from the flight, we didn't even get to go back to the hotel. Right from the airport, we were taken to the ground for a session, and the first person we saw there was Andrew Simons. And we all know that what a beast he was back in 2008. He was terrifying. So when we walked in, I mean, as youngsters, it was very overwhelming, but at the same time, we were, really confident that we're going to be playing against players like Andrew Simons and, similar first-class players of Australia and the Brisbane team. So now we went into the net practice. We saw the outfield. We saw the pitches over there. It was completely different from what we've been playing all our lives. Like for 19 years, I was 19 years back then, and it was very difficult for me to understand what's going on. So the next 1 week was just helping us getting accustomed to the conditions over there, because in Brisbane typically the ball bounces a lot, and some of the really fast bowlers also come in from Brisbane. So it was about adapting to that change. It was adapting to how much you want to bend. Your trigger movements automatically changed, and a great point that Mickey was earlier sharing, when we spoke briefly before, was that when you play in subcontinent conditions, you need to make a little bit of room for yourself to put that force behind the ball. But whereas when I played in Australia, the immediate transfer was, my back foot had to be a lot more stronger. I had to, come behind the ball, because I had to use the pace of the ball and time it properly instead of using a lot of force, because automatically you get lesser time to react. So, that was a big shock. There was a big change for me in that 1 week, but that immensely helped me face fast bowling a lot better when I came back to India. Then next was Dubai. Now, Dubai is very similar to what we see in India, but within Dubai also, there was totally different, conditions when we played in the ICC, or when we played in the Abu Dhabi National Stadium, or when we played at Sharjah. Those were again absolutely different conditions. So, it was very rightly said by Mickey, right? When you go to different places, you need to assess first. You need to acclimatize to the place. You need to visualize that. What are the challenges going to be? Because visualization becomes very, very important for you to react to the situations.
So I think that's what leads on to, in a way, the question that people need to be fully prepared before they go on tours. It just can't be that you get onto a flight and you think you're getting 100 in. On a crumbling pitch in Firozshah Kotla. That doesn't mean that you're going to be going down to the Baka on a track of that sort with that kind of bounce. You can't, the length change, everything changes right there. Yeah?
Right.
So,
excellent. One very important thing which Mickey has been emphasizing on is the technique. The basic technique needs to be right. So that's the
Yes.
only thing that will allow you to adapt to any change. And remember that when you play professional cricket, when you play competitive cricket, you need to adapt quickly. So always make
So
sure that your technique is right.
yes, I think that's a very valid point. It brings along a question that we've got a 12-year-old from India asking us, Agastya Singh Rawat. He's with the DLCL Cricket Academy, big support structure in North India, in Delhi and all over North India. DLCL. So Agastya is, I think he's been with them for a while. He asked a question regarding technique. Can I actually train as a T20 player, Test player, and an ODI player at the same time, or do I need to, Mickey, train like a Test player as a kid in a purist format, and then graduate into an ODI player and a T20 player? Is that a fallacy of thought, or do you think that is the way to go? How to play the game as a young boy or girl?
It certainly used to be, Sam. It used to be that way, where you used to build a technique, and that technique is always based around a defense. So you used to build a technique based around a defense, which meant that your game could then expand from there because you had the defense in place. I've seen players now change that, and I'll go back to David Warner, who started as a 2020 cricketer, but has now become a very good player because he got a really good defense. That's where he changed, and so the fallacy that you needed to be a good have a really good technique and then branch out has changed a little bit. I think your best players will be able to adapt all the time, and will be good enough to do that.
That's great, Mickey. I think it's really important to consider these factors. Whenever you're planning to become a very very successful cricketer. And I think Sam's back with us now. Sam, can you hear
Yes,
us?
I'm back. I'm back. I
Yeah.
heard Vicky. I just, internet got locked off back
Right,
on.
right.
So
Yeah.
I got a question. And you know what, Agastya, the question asked, I think was fantastic because it's a question that, I know a lot of parents send into cross-border cricket on a recurring basis as well. They want to know from us, the coaches that we work with, the tours that we do. They want to know the same thing from us all the time, that what do we do with our kid? Does he really need to train like a Test player and then let's see what happens 10 years down the line? Or do you start working on those ramp shots and those reverse switch hits and reverse sweeps at this stage and perfect it so that you're sort of sorted when you go forward with that in a long-term perspective? Okay, so the next question that I have is from the vice captain of the Malaysian national team, and a round of applause for the Malaysian board to support us. And Dinesh Muthuraman, who's the CEO of the board, yes, fantastic work. Dinesh, you've been a superstar. You've supported cross-border cricket. You supported this entire exercise with DC Cricket Academy as well. We've got a lot of Malaysian cricketers during the Ramadan month as well. They've come on board and they're actually hearing us and they've sent in a question. So this is the vice captain of the Malaysian national team. His name is Virendeep Singh. So Virendeep has a lot of questions, but I'll ask you one of them, Mickey. He says, tell me Babar Azam's routine. Why is he so different from others? How does he actually prepare for a game? Because I can see, and I'm relating it to a lot of people who are asking us questions right here, who are saying, how do you prepare for a game? So let's answer Virendeep, and he's playing for an associate nation, and your advice is valuable.
Yeah, look, and that's a great and great to have our Malaysian counterparts on. It's really nice to have them have them with us at the moment. Babar Azam's technique was amazing. His technique is absolutely incredible. I often talk about the best players in the world, and they're the best players in the world because they train and play so hard, and their work ethic is second to none. So I'll give you a routine of Babar Azam when we training in Lahore. So Babar would come into the National Academy early in the morning. He would do a training session. He'd do a cardio session. He would work incredibly hard at his cardio session. He then would have breakfast. He then would go into a gym session. He then would come back and have a little bit of time off, have some lunch, and then he'd go and hit balls for 3 hours. And it comes back to that common denominator that I keep on talking about. That common denominator is hard work. These guys work incredibly hard. So Barber's day was like a normal day. It was like a normal working day for him. But he was incredibly routine in doing that. So when we got on a tour, the same thing would happen for Barber. But then as we got closer to the game, he would go and have his nets, he would go and have his hits. And then a day out from the game, he would say he's done, he's ready. So it's kind of like the match is the exam, and you have to have done the preparation for the exam in order to get the ultimate result. Well, any player can learn from Barber because he was absolutely amazing at it.
Oh, fantastic. So it's good for the kids to realize how much they need to work hard. It relates to the next question we have from Abhiraj Dutt as well, who's also a DLCL student up in Delhi. He asked the same question. He's saying that, listen, how much is enough? When do I start asking, when do I start playing? Early, so what age do I start playing? And how many hours do I need to put in over here?
Is that to me, Sam?
Yes, Mickey, sorry. It is to you. You're frozen. Your screen is frozen. So, yeah, but we can hear you.
Good. Excellent. The internet must be coming and going. I'm here in Gaul in Sri Lanka. The player knows how. So as you get, it's called experience, Sam, and you can't walk into a supermarket and just buy experience. Experience is something that you learn. You learn about your game. You learn about yourself. You learn about what makes you tick. You learn about how best you can prepare for any game. And I always say to our players, and we always do as coaches, we work them extremely hard in the first portion of the week, and then we'll taper off, because ultimately, as you get closer to game time, it is then becomes the players' time to top up with exactly what they want and exactly what they need. You can't be too prescriptive as a coach as you get closer to game time, because that's when the players start getting a little bit restless. They start getting a little bit nervous. They start getting a little bit anxious, and you then take that supporting role just to reassure them that they've done all the work, they've done all the preparation, and that they're ready to go at any given point when they're asked to. So that's kind of the routine I've always followed. You ask when's enough? The player knows. The player will ultimately know when enough is enough.
So do you think that we can at what age do you prescribe for people to start? I mean, I have questions from Rian Malhan, Keshav Agarwal coming in. I'm just clubbing the names because Rian and Keshav are from Maple Cricket Academy in Delhi, MCC they call themselves. They're asking the same question. Rian says that it's in a way like what Abhiraj asked from the other academy, that they're saying that, listen, what is the right age to start? Because he feels that he started very early. Has he benefited by starting very early at 6? And do you think it's a great option to move on? And do you benefit earlier in life by doing so?
Yeah, of course. Of course you do. If he started at 6, that was kind of when I started, because that's when the passion runs through your brain, and through your body. So the earlier you can start, the earlier you can start getting used to getting those muscle memories around.
Yeah. So, Mickey, you're cutting in and out. Would request you to just log in and log out and log in again. Jagrit, this question was next going to be bounced off like a bouncer to you as well straight away. What do you I really truly want to know, in the DC Cricket Academy, what age do you take on the kids? Because I know so many people, they say, listen, I want to send my kid at 5, some at 7. And I've heard enough coaches say, send them when they're 12, because sometimes we feel they don't work hard enough. And that's the sort of natural tendency that we've seen from many coaches.
Right. So Samir, I mean, first of all, I would like to start by telling about myself that I started playing cricket at the age of 7, and personally, the benefits that are derived out of it was like Mickey was saying that the muscle memory plays a very important role in any sport that you're going to play. Like we all know that fitness is very very important for every sport, and whether it's football or cricket or basketball, any other sport that you go to, fitness plays a key role. But to be able to execute certain actions, like when you're a batsman or a wicket keeper or a bowler, that muscle memory also plays a very very important factor. It becomes the most important, I would say, subconscious ingredient to your success,
Yeah.
right? So, in order to develop that subconscious ingredient, if you start playing early, it is obviously going to be a lot better. Against the contrary myth that start playing at the age of 12 or 13 or 14, I would definitely say that start playing as early as possible. Suggested age according to us would be 7 years old, because that is when you've developed enough sense to know what you're doing. You're not just doing it as something, as an experiment. You like the game, you want to come and you want to play. And in a lot of Western countries, we've seen the children do pursue a couple of sports together. They start playing as young as 7 years old. They practice and they develop their abilities in different sports till they reach the age of 10. Yeah,
I'd like to butt in there because when you talk about other countries, I need to bring Mickey in on that.
yeah.
Mickey, are we audible to
Yes.
you? Okay,
Yes,
so
yes, I
Mickey,
can hear you well.
right. So here's the question for you. Um, I asked Jagrid that while you were away and logging in, I asked Jagrid that, listen, what age do kids really come in and they want to start off within the DC Cricket Academy? And we were discussing in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and our subcontinent, even Sri Lanka to some extent. Probably 6 and 7 is when kids come on. We're
Yeah.
playing age group cricket right from 9, 10, 11. These kids are playing 4 or 5 games a week, relentless cricket in various academies. But I know it's very different in other parts. I'd like you to shed a light because I've got Philip and I've got what's his name? I've got Philip and I've got Mihir living in South Africa in Cape Town, and they're asking questions that, listen, our compatriots, sorry, not compatriots, but our friends in India play 4 games a week. We play 4 games in 2 months. How are we ever going to compete with these guys? There's no chance we can become Virat. How do you answer that?
No, well, look, the pathways in every country are different. Like the pathways certainly in Pakistan, which I know a little bit in Sri Lanka and in Australia, are very club and academy dominated. Where the pathways in South Africa was very school dominated. So you sort of kind of came through your school. In all the countries, though, the one consistent thing is that from a under 13 level, there's an interstate or interprovincial rivalry. So you start at under 13 level, representing your province, state, or whatever it is. So and going to carnivals and cricket weeks. It's just how you get there that has differed slightly in different places. I think you see more and more academies now around the world flourishing and coming to fruition. And that is then obviously, if you want to be in South Africa, now the school will give you a very good grounding. But if you want to do extra, you've got to be part of those academies. And those academies will then make you become the next Virat Kohli or Baba Azam or Kusal Mendes. You'll become the next player by just playing more. And it is interesting to see that all the pathways are slightly different. But ultimately, they lead to the end goal. And ultimately, as a player, it's not the time that you spend when you're in academies or at school. It's the time that you spend on your own that makes the difference. Doing the little 1%ers on your own in your own spare time, that is where the difference is made. And that's what makes champion players.
Yeah, I think that's a befitting answer. I think that solves their problems in life to some extent to know how to resolve that. Moving on, Jagrat, I've had a special question coming in from you. It's Karan Kaul from Nairobi who wants to say hello to you. He's obviously been one of the large supporters for this project, and unfortunately, I'm not being able to take him online. And maybe you just want to shout out to him and say hello. and we're missing him because we can't take him online right now. But we appreciate every bit of their participation. We got over 100 people from Nairobi alone. That's fantastic.
Oh yes, that's actually been amazing, Samir, and I really want to thank Karan and his entire team at Starfield Sports in Nairobi to contribute in such a big way. And Karan himself, as I've known him from last 4 years, they're doing a great job to promote sports and especially cricket, because Karan himself has been an international player in Kenya. So he loves the sport a lot, and he's always on his toes to promote it over there. So yes, hi Karan. It's an absolute honor to have known you for so long, and great to see the efforts you're putting in for Kenyan cricket.
Yes, at Cross Border Cricket, we'd like to thank you as well, Karan, for all your help. And while we talk about Kenya, we've also had a comment from Thomas Odoyo. Thomas has played the 2015 World Cup semi-final against India in South Africa, and all of us Indians remember that fondly as well. We won, but it was a great match. I think the Kenyan team did really well in that period. And he wants to say a big hello to Nikki. I think Nikki, you do know him as well, don't you?
Yeah, I know Thomas well. We used to have the Afro-Asia games, and Thomas Oduya used to come and play with us in the African team when we used to play against Asia in the Afro-Asia series. And I watched Thomas's career with a lot of interest. He did an exceptional job there for Kenya, and I'm just so happy that he's still involved with cricket, because I remember Kenyan cricket. I remember touring there and going to the Nairobi Gymkhana Club, and cricket was alive and well in Nairobi, Kenya at that point in time. And we'd like to see Kenya getting back to their rightful place and becoming the force that way they were, as you say, World Cup 2003. They got to the semi-final of it.
Yes, and and Ketan and Kashif and Jatin, we got a few kids from Starfield Sports who are asking us the questions. What's our future, Mickey? Can we get back to playing international cricket and play with the world's best where we belong?
Yeah, yes, they can. I'm not sure what the structures are like there, but I know if Thomas is involved in it with Karan, hopefully there's some good structures developing in Kenya cricket. And the one thing I can say, talking with my RCC cricket hat on, is that the small nations, the RCC, want to grow the game. They want to grow the game globally without a doubt. And there are going to be opportunities for those teams to get back to where they need to be. There's competitions along the way, and there's little boxes that they've got to tick in order to get back up to World Cups, etc. But the world would be great. And talking a little bit now with my African hat on, it would be great to get another country from Africa playing back in World Cups and that. So let's hope Kenyan cricket goes from strength to strength.
Excellent. So we're gonna shift geographies a little bit from Africa. Again, big thank you to those guys who tuned in from Kenya and from Uganda, and I can see Namibia. Of course, there's South Africa. So there's 4 countries that I can see straight away on our chat channel. Fantastic. Thank you for supporting cross-border cricket in this initiative. But moving on to another geography altogether, we've got Chiron Rogers from the UK. He's from Yorkshire Cricket. And Yorkshire Cricket's been doing a great job. We all know that, the great Sachin Tendulkar went to play at Yorkshire when he did as his first county stint. Mickey, he's got a question for you, which he says, what's the greatest challenge that you face? Because he's a coach. He said, what's the greatest challenge you face as a high-level coach?
Well, the greatest challenge is getting the players to perform to their very best. So your greatest challenge is managing players to make sure that they all go in the right direction. The more you get to international level, the coaching's all being done. Your technical work becomes 10% of it. For me as head coach, creating a direction and a goal and a vision for the team and an environment is my most important role. So managing the players day in and day out, having the one-on-one conversations, giving them very clear role clarity in what's expected of them, setting them and challenge them individual targets. That for me is the biggest job. You talk about the football managers, you talk about the Alex Fergusons of the world. Your international cricket coaches now are managers, because underneath it, I've got a batting coach, a bowling coach, and a fielding coach that work underneath me. And yes, right, our messages, we sit as a coaching staff all the time, we debate our players and we debate the direction and we debate our combinations. But when we leave a room, technically we're all on the same page with that player. So that's why for us it is so important getting those player plans in place, getting the players to buy into those player plans. And once we've got that, it's about letting the player play. And hopefully he fulfills those roles he does. If he fulfills those roles, we have some success, which leads to a really good environment, and ultimately then everybody's happy. But managing the environment and creating an environment of champions, that's the most important part of my work at the moment.
Fantastic. So we've got Ganesh Dutt. Ganesh Dutt runs a brilliant academy in Delhi as well. So he's asked the question for Jagrit. Jagrit, you're doing a fantastic job with DC Cricket Academy. So he's actually wanting to understand, how do you actually prepare your coaches? How do they do things like these? How do you make champion cricketers come about? Because I'm sure you don't want to keep buying Prithvi Shaw and Shreyas Iyer from Mumbai forever, right? We want Delhi boys to come and play for Delhi.
Absolutely, Samir. It's very important for us to keep developing talent at the grassroots level, and especially with Delhi as well, because Delhi is our home city, and it's really important to provide the best of talent pool from Delhi itself. So we work very hard with our coaches, and our technical head, Mr. Vinod Sharma, he's been associated with the academies for the last 7 years, being a very senior coach himself. He's developed some excellent programs, and like I said, we've got a very good resource pool wherein we get our training curriculums from. So we have regular coaches conferences that we have ongoing in DC academies, and very soon we are also launching a program which is going to be specifically for coaches, for a certification from DC academies to make a lot of things measurable in terms of a coach, because we all know when you coach, things get different and one size doesn't fit all. So there has to be different application with different students. However, as many procedures as we can set at the basic level, with all our coaches, we've been trying very hard for that. And that regular interaction with coaches, and we allot specific age groups to them, so that we get regular feedback. So on a monthly basis, we get reports of how the children are doing, how the coaches are doing. Then we have head coaches who assess their report, then a technical head who assesses their report. So we have a proper structure in place that everything gets monitored. So even if the coaches, however, they've never done in the last 7 years, we've been really fortunate to have an excellent team of coaches who've been working with children. But let's say, it's human to err. We all do make mistakes. So we just set these procedures and these curriculums in place to make sure that the mistakes are minimized, because each mistake that we might make can affect the future of a child. So we want to minimize those mistakes and continue to work hard with our children. And yes, we love Prithvi Shaw, we love Shreyas Iyer, we love all the players from all over the world. But at the same time, yes, it's very important. It's our responsibility to develop the talent.
Delhi boys in Delhi.
We got the Gabbar in Delhi, so we got Rishabh Pant from Delhi, amazing, and right now also we recruited one boy from the Delhi team itself, Lalit Yadav. He's a really good cricketer who's coming up the charts in his career as well. So you never know where this goes. So that's the responsibility.
Moving on, I've got a question for you, and we keep back on. I'm going to ask you this question, Jagrit. We have Nikki back on. So this question goes out to actually both of you. It comes in through a pair of sisters, one sitting in the UK and one's in India. So the boy in the UK is Rayan Paul. He lives in John Wood, London, next to the ground. Wow, you're living next to Lords. Brilliant.
Wow.
Amazing.
You can get the Lords. Excellent.
Very lucky.
And then very lucky. And then there is Akshat Parashar, who's playing at the Push Cricket Academy in India. He's at Gurgaon, and they're asking the same question. They're saying, what is the future of off spinners in domestic and international cricket? Now, this is a two-pronged question. The first I'd like to hear from is Nikki, because I want to know, are the likes of, let me put it like this, Nathan Lyon or there was Graham Swan at one time, Bhaji, are they think of the past? Are we just going towards the Rashids of the world and, East Odi, and you got to be a leg spinner to play the game? Is that it?
No, and that's a good question. You need to balance your attack. So when you look at a bowling attack, it's called a bowling attack for that for that very reason.
True.
You have to, if you've got good strike bowlers like say Australia have, they need Nathan Lyon to do a holding job and control the run rate for them. Off spinners can control the run rate very, very well, particularly in the first innings. And then it come the second innings of the game, they come into their own. That's where they get their turn, where they get their bounce, and then they play a significant role. Nathan Lyon does that role to perfection. So off spin it will still play a very, very big role. It plays a big role for me in one-day cricket, again, because you're controlling the rate. However, with the leg spinner, the focus has gone into white ball cricket now of taking wickets. Your wrist spinner gives you that very big advantage, particularly in the middle overs. So it's overs 11 to 40 and overs in a one-day game, and it's overs 7 to 15 in a 2020 over game, where the game plans of all the teams now is to strike, and that's where your wrist spinners come. We've got one, Winindu Hasaranga. You're looking at Shadab Khan. You look at Adam Zampa, Imran Tahir. Most countries now are looking to go with a wrist spinner through the middle because they generally are a more attacking option. If you play your wrist spinner in Test cricket, understand that he won't be able to control the rate for you. So, for instance, a Yasir Shah with Pakistan, his run concession rate is up at nearly 4 and over. But what Yasir Shah does is he takes wickets. So ultimately, you've got to balance your attack around with what you've had. So if you're playing in the subcontinent, your wrist spinner becomes your attacking option, and then you use him as an attacking bowler. And that means one of your seam bowlers then has to become your controlling bowler. If you're playing outside the subcontinent, you want your spinner. And we used, I'll go back to my South Africa days, we used a spin bowler called Paul Harris exceptionally well because he came on around overs 50 and he held an end to give our seamers a little bit of a break and to make sure that they were fresh come the new ball. So it all depends how you want to set up your team. And you know, when people say you pick an attack, you're picking attack. You're not picking your 4 best bowlers because sometimes your 4 best bowlers don't complement each other. You have to have a bowler that can stop the run rate. You've got to have an attacking option. If you can have a left armer, good. If you get a right armer, you've got to have your variation in your attack. And that's why when we select an attack and not necessarily your 4 fast bowlers. And conditions play such an important role in that as well. But to answer the question again, I think off spin still has a very, very big role to play in all forms. Because if your off spin is good enough, he controls the rate for you and will have the ability to pick up wickets through pressure.
Yes, and moving on. Suddenly, we've had an explosion of the African nations, if I were to put it. A lot of Kenyans asking questions. A lot of people from our the academy over there who have come in. I actually had Peter Ongondo ask a question. I wonder if it's I don't know, Jagrat, do you think that's Peter Ongondo, the ex-player, who's asking the question? I'll ask the question he's just posted on.
I suppose it is him, yes.
Yeah, it probably is him. He's logged in as well. And he's asking Mickey the question that, Mickey, tell me one thing. Everyone wants to hit sixes in this T20 era. So is it wrong? Is it right? Or should we just allow the kids to just play with freedom in the T20 format? And it's okay to hit aerial balls as long as they're in the gaps.
Look, I think there's a real balance to that, and coaching's certainly changed, particularly in the junior age groups now. And the reason I say that is because kids want that instant gratification, so they want to be like the guys who plays the helicopter shot and hits the ball out the ground. If I'd played a shot like that when I was growing up in the nets, my coach would have sent me out the nets, and I wouldn't have batted again for a week. So I think we have to be as coaches, we need to find that consistent balance. Yes, if you play the helicopter shot and you haven't got a defense, you're in real trouble. But if you can have a little bit of a defense, we've got to allow our players, particularly our young players, to experiment and see what they can do, so that they can get into a game situation and they play in the game situation without fear of failure because they've practiced it. So coaching has changed a little bit along those lines, and I would always encourage our players. So like if we're setting up for a one-day game or a 2020 game, we'll structure one net session leading into that game where we want the players to play reverse sweeps, paddle shots, inside out over extra cover, clearing your front leg, hitting the ball to long on and deep mid wicket, so that when they get in a game and they need a boundary to win it, they've actually practiced it before. So we, and I wouldn't have done that right at the start of my coaching career when I started with South Africa, because that just wasn't the thing. And it's amazing how much the game's change in such a short space of time.
So Mr. 360 coming in and just changing the game altogether, accessing, all the way from third man to fine leg all through the field. It's just unbelievable.
Spot on, 100% right. And that's where the game's going.
Yes. So, Jagvit, from your perspective as well, from a DC perspective as well, for our Kenyan viewers, I'd like you to shed a light on that as well. How do you react to what Mickey just said as well? Quickly, because we've got just half an hour left, and I've got a lot of questions, a lot of names. I want to just give them all an answer before we log off.
Sam, so to add to what Mickey said, because what he said is absolutely invaluable, and I think he's covered most of the important things in that point. So a little more that I can probably just add to it is that, hitting sixes has become really important in today's T20 game, and all the players have been trying to do that. But in the process, a lot of players were not natural six hitters, because that is also a natural ability to it. It's something that you might develop over time. But some people are naturally not big hitters, right? So for them, I would just like to advise that don't go in to change your game drastically. What you can do is you can look for those gaps, because we know that there are always a lot of gaps available in the field. So when you do your practice, when you do your net session, or your knocking sessions, just make sure.
Let me put you on the spot. Let me put you on the spot and say, if there are kids in the DC Academy who are saying, can I access the boundary in a T20 game straight away? Do you have coaches who are ready to train them on power hitting as well? Because I've seen very few academies who actually discuss range hitting and power hitting. They only talk about high elbow, heel to toe, and the regular stuff that we've all been through. As I mean, you're all you played professional cricket. Mickey obviously is a legend. I'm just a cricket lover who's played also.
Right.
But not enough of the game to understand that we don't get that. We don't get the coaches to tell us that, okay, fine, it's all right. You're playing in the power play. 15. Everyone's saying, no, hit along the carpet. There's a short cover. Just, go wide of the short cover. Just get down. Don't go over it. Do you have coaches to teach you stuff like that?
So, when our coaches teach players, they focus on the natural game of the player. Like I was just mentioning that each player has their own natural way of playing. Like if you tell Sehwag to play like Dravid or Dravid to play like Sehwag, that's never going to happen. Right? Now, I'll give an example of one of the most successful T20 batsmen in the world. I mean, he's successful everywhere. But if you talk about Virat Kohli, and if you focus on his game initially, when he builds up his innings in T20, the maximum shots that he hits is along the ground. That is because he's able to find those gaps almost perfectly every single time, and also rotate the strike so that the bowler never settles down. So that is what you need to do. You need to unsettle the bowler. And, you need to believe in your natural game. So even in our academies, we tell the coaches to make sure that children focus on their natural game. Someone's natural game might be hitting beautiful cover drives or beautiful on drives. So they should be able to capitalize on that further to find more gaps in the field. So, let's say hitting 160 and over is, it's a chance that you take if you're not a natural six hitter. If you can hit 2 boundaries in that same over and get 4 runs, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what you were putting on the scoreboard. So each player has a different style of playing, so the focus should always be on the natural side. And then after that, you adapt to change and improvise as well. But first, focus on your natural game. That's most important.
And I'm just going to run along with the stream of questions coming in over here. By the way, just even 1.5 hours in, I just want you all and everyone to know we're still sitting at about 720 odd viewers who are live with us. God knows where all now. I didn't even know we had people in Italy watching us. So this is brilliant. The questions coming in, they just keep going away. I mean, I had a question let me try and remember that it was from someone there who was asking the question that it was to Mickey saying, do you ever get angry as a coach? Do you scold your players? You tell them off or no?
Oh yes, definitely, very, very definitely, and that's part of the trust and the relationship you build with your players. But I think there comes a time as well where you have to, I'm a no-nonsense coach, and I think that's how you got to be. I'm open, I'm honest. I will tell him the truth. I will tell him how it is, and that builds that relationship with the players. Coaches that sit on the fence don't work that well. You've got to be open. You've got to be honest. You've got to trust them. They'll then trust you. And even though you have times where you do scold them, they all know that I've got their back ultimately, and it's because I want them to be the best they can be.
Excellent. Yeah, makes sense. And Jagras, for you, I've got an interesting question coming in from India. This is from Hidan Kalra, Ranveer Jain, and a boy called Siddharth Mishra. They're playing for the MCC in Delhi, and they are asking you a question. And I'm pointing it to you because I am aware you were a left-handed batsman, right?
Yes.
In your days.
Right.
So they've got a question there saying, do left-handers have an edge over the right-handers, especially when you're an opening batsman, because you're fighting for lesser slots? We really want to know your opinion.
First of all, I would say that yes, left-handers do have an edge over right-handers in a lot of situations. That's because, the line of bowling automatically changes. Earlier, as Mickey would know more about this, that earlier there were fewer left-handers that we saw in the domestic circuit or in the international circuit, and there were always more right-hand players. And especially in India, that I've seen, if you go back to the earlier years, it was a huge difference. And mostly the bowlers had a good practice of bowling to right-handers as compared to left-handers in the earlier days. So left-handers did have an advantage, and but as the game has changed now, I wouldn't say there's much of a difference, or you get much of an edge being a left-hand batsman. Apart from it, of course, the bowlers get more practice on right-hand batsmen. So, but one thing I would always like to say over here is that left-handers certainly have that edge of looking, more elegant and, somewhat, having a great flow. Like we saw Yuvraj, it was a treat to watch him, and no matter what he did, even if he played a defense shot, it was something that was absolutely wonderful. So yes, they have that edge of looking more elegant, but I would say that Mickey would answer this question better as to what edge do they have in terms of playing in a higher form of cricket against the more seasoned bowlers. So Mickey, if you could please.
Yes. I think I'd like to hear that too.
Yes.
I'm just charging my computer as well. Just give me a minute. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Mickey. Mickey, are you there? I think have we lost Mickey? Have we?
I think Mickey's he's probably reconnecting. Yeah, he's reconnecting. So I think we will get back to this question because it's a very, very important question, I would say, Samir.
Yeah, a lot of people ask for questions of this sort. So let's
so Mickey's back. Mickey's back, Samir.
Mickey back? Yes. Let's have Mickey back then.
This was very interesting because we always used to have this debate in the dressing room. So many times around left-handers versus right-handers. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Jagrat?
Yes, Mickey, you're audible.
Yes.
So we always had the debate was left-hander, and the left-hander always looked so good until Graham Smith said one day, "Okay, well, Jacques, you go and bat on the 5th day when there's a hell of a lot of rough outside your off stump in the subcontinent in a test match," and that kind of put the argument to rest. But the one thing I will say is that left-handers on song, the Brian Laras of the world, always look so elegant and so good. David Gower, one goes back to the David Gowers. Left-handers look awesome when they bat.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it. Jagrat, I have seen you bat, and I know you look good.
Thanks, man. That's really kind of you, Samir. Thanks so much.
Excellent. So, moving. Oh, have we lost Mickey again? Have we?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question till then. I've had a lot of DC boys ask me this question, and I'm sure we've been holding back on the DC boys. There's been tons of them coming through, there's Arush, there is Ketan, there's Daksh, I think, Yash.
Yes.
They're asking the same questions again and again, which are based around the fact that last year they played a lot of tournaments, but is there going to be a DC Colts team, which is going to be like an under 13, for age group cricket? Because the school structure in India, or especially in North India, like Delhi, is not rest of India. Rest of India is pretty sorted on their school structure. I'm talking about Delhi. We don't have much of a school structure in this city. Are you going to be making an under 11, 13, 15 for Colt age group cricket team? Because that's where the talent really is, right? That's where the raw talent is.
Yes, absolutely, Samir. That's a very important question, and thanks for asking that. Thanks you all, the DC Voice, for asking that question. So, in order to promote junior cricket, Delhi Capitals has been organizing a school cup for many years now, and we've seen some great talent come up from there. In fact, a lot of children who played in the school cups are now playing for their respective state teams, and some of the boys who are from Delhi are also playing in different states. So we have been grooming a lot of talent from there, from the school cup, where we give them ample number of matches as well to perform. Now, to answer your question precisely, I would say that yes, we are building up a structure now very shortly, where we will be organizing tournaments which will be of the lower age groups, because we know the importance of under 14 and under 16 in setting the tone for under 19 selections. So yes, we'll start from as young as under 11, under 14, and under 16. And these tournaments, we will not focus only on schools. We are going to focus these tournaments more on academies as well. As the cricket structure in Delhi is more prevalent in academies than in schools currently. However, at the same time, we are also partnering with a lot of premium schools in Delhi to establish our academies over there, so that even the boys from the school and the girls from the school can participate and learn within their school premises, because that's where the parent feels the safest. So we want to, kind of align the efforts of schools and academies to bring together that comfort factor in the minds of the parents, and then from there on develop talent by means of the tournaments that you just spoke about. So yes, we are structuring those tournaments and leagues to integrate the cricket properly.
Yeah, which is absolutely great. So I'm just going to quickly read out some questions that are coming through. I'll send it over to me. Nicky Johan, who's the coach in Peter Maritzburg. Have I pronounced it right?
Peter Maritzburg, yes, it is in Natal.
Yes, Peter Maritzburg. So we got Johan from Peter Maritzburg. He's asking a question. Are coaches psychologists as well?
Well, look, a lot of high-performing teams now travel with psychologists. I think, though, that coaches are. And I think part of the whole coaching education now, there is a little bit in terms of psychologists. Now, I'm not saying we qualified psychologists by any means, if there's any psychologists watching us. But the way you interact with your player and the belief that you give your player and the way you talk to your player does involve quite a bit of psychology work, really. So I think to get the best out of your guy and your player, the ultimate respect and relationship for me as a head coach is the most important thing. And within that is a little bit of a psychology, because you make the player feel that he's the best that he can possibly be. You make him feel like he can run through a brick wall. And when you do that, you get some good results. And so there is a little bit of psychology in that. But no, we're certainly not qualified psychologists, but psychology comes in different ways.
Yes, fantastic. So moving on, I've got Gary, who is the coach in Delhi. Gary wants to ask, how does cricket, he's asking me the question, how does cricket vary across all parts of India and in different playing styles? I think let's push that through to Jagrit. Jagrit, just a quick one on that. How does cricket vary? All parts of India. Can you just kind of sum India up for all the
sure.
as well? Because they need to know what south, north, east, west looks like. But
absolutely
on it.
Earlier there was a big difference in the kind of aggression that was prevalent in different parts of India when it came to practicing and playing. As we all know, that North India was always more aggressive. It was always more proficient with the shorter formats, and that we've seen, across a lot of national tournaments as well. And when we talk about Mumbai has been a mix of aggression and disciplined cricket, because the conditions over there are such, and the kind of practices that the Mumbai players, or the Western players, I would say, are into, are totally different from what happens in Delhi. And if we go down further south, the form of cricket is very, very disciplined, and that kind of highlights in the likes of Rahul Dravid, Javagal Srinath, Anil Kumble, VVS Lakshman. We've all seen them as very, very disciplined cricketers, as compared to the cricketers from the north, who were, I mean, of course, disciplined, but they had a different style of playing. There was more aggression to their game. So that difference is obviously still there, because that's in the DNA of the places. And if you talk about structures, the structures also depend a lot on the size of the state, because certain places have more of academy formats. Certain, like if you talk about Delhi, we have only an academy format, where the tournaments are between academies and clubs.
Yes.
If you talk about Bombay, it's also about academies, because Bombay is a smaller city. But if we go, let's say, to some place like Karnataka, or we go to Hyderabad, which are bigger states, which have more players, like even Gujarat has three state teams. It's got Vidarbha, it's got Gujarat, it's got Saurashtra. So that the dynamics totally change based on selection. Yeah. So then there are smaller clubs which become part of districts. Even in Haryana, it's the same. Smaller clubs, they become part of districts. Then there are district trials that go on, and then after that, you selected in the state team. So where a trial in Delhi or Bombay, which are smaller cities, would start somewhere 2 months prior to the season, the trials in the bigger states start much before, because first you get selected for the districts. So
Yeah.
the different form of
I think this conversation, this is a topic, Jagrit. I'm sure we will, have the pleasure of inviting you at a later point in time as well. We're going to do a complete series on just cricket in India. I think that's going to be a very big.
Oh, absolutely, it's too big.
We can talk to us just on Indian cricket.
This one, yes, absolutely.
How to play where, when to play where, etc., etc. So we'll stop that for now. But we'll move on to the next question. It's from Samay in Kenya. It's from Mitchell Rafter in Auckland. He's still up.
Yeah.
And we've got Ranjit Das from Dhaka, from
From
Bangladesh.
Dhaka. Wow, there we go.
Very nice. And they've got a question, and we've combined, our stat guys have combined the question, and it's coming out as, do keepers make for better captains, Mickey? And is it the best area to be on the field to make the right decisions? And funny enough, there's no Indian in there, considering that it's MS Dhoni led question, but it's from all the other nationalities.
Well, look, I think your best captain is the guy who ends the game the most, the guy that is certainly leads by example.
I think we've lost Mickey. Can you hear him, Jagrit, or am I the only one?
I think we lost him. He's going to get back. So meanwhile, Samir, as Mickey gets back,
Can I know your experience? Can I know your experience? You played for teams. I want to know, who is the best captain to be appointed? Is it the best player, or in your mind, it's the best leader? Take one of those and let's go.
It's never the best player. It's always the best leader, because you have to get the best out of every player. That's what matters.
Yeah, I think that's the answer.
Yes. Because captaincy is not just about leading from the front. Yes, it's very, very important. You lead from the front, and that a good player can always do. But captaincy is about making everyone a match winner.
Yes.
So as a captain, you should be surprised. Oh, this guy, he won me the match. Like we know how the final of the T20 World Cup went.
Yes, of course.
Expected Joginder Sharma to bowl that winning over.
Unbelievable.
So that's what a captain does.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna move on while we wait for Mickey. I'm gonna shoot this question. It's for both of you, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
This has been compiled, and it's I'm going to take some names because we just don't want to forget everyone.
Absolutely.
There's Sean, there's Lizzie, Frank, Suraj, Javed, and Hazibul. I think he must be from Afghanistan. Very nice. So they are asking the question. Oh, great. Mickey, you're back. Excellent. So this question is going to go actually to both of you quickly. We've had this is from about 8 or 9 people. How do you get the most out of players, and when do you know I'll start with Mickey first on this. How do you know that a player, as we say, has it? How do you pick that guy and say, this is my guy?
You know the player has it because, again, you look at him technically, physically, and mentally. You work through his desire. You'll see his will to win. You'll see his work ethic. That plays such a massive role because then you can work with him. Once you build that trust with your player, then when the player's got your trust and you give him a clear role definition and he knows you back him to fulfill that role, you get totally the best out of your player. And again, that comes down to managing the person so well. And that's the key. The key is managing your players, knowing what makes every one of them tick. Some of them like an arm around them. Other guys need a bit of a stick. You've got to know what catalyst gets that player into the best place. And that's why individual coaching and individual management goes a long way. Then you bring them all into the team goal, and then once you get them playing for each other within their own roles, hopefully you'll get some ultimate success.
Excellent. And the next question coming in is, how do you fight with sledging? And we've got Athar from Delhi, we've got Siddharth, I think, from Bangalore, Arush from Bombay. They're all asking about sledging, and because we know that the Indian team used to be at one time a victim of sledging, definitely not victims anymore. They're sort of the oppressors now. But how's that changed in your mind? How did you think that sledging should be done? Is it under the sportsmanship garb, or is it fine to just sledge and that's how you win games?
No. I don't go for that because I think that is sometimes upsets you and sometimes upsets your teammates. So it's clearly what gets you going. I mean, clearly, without wanting to say, we cut to the chase. I think it gets Virat Kohli going. So we don't. Every team that I coached won't say anything to Virat Kohli because if you get involved in a fight with him, you generally come out second best. And the key is a lot of players go when they walk out, they pick that fight. So I know a guy like David Warner. When he walks out to bat, he goes straight to a guy and picks a fight. Because if he gets a reaction, that gets him turned in and that gets his arousal levels up and that gets him ready for the game. Brad Haddon used to do exactly the same. So often the best practice is for those guys is just to say nothing to them. Sledging works for different people in different ways. But as a team, I think it's in a body language. It's not what you say with your mouth. It's in how you present yourselves as a team and how confident you guys are because that comes out in a body language. There's a very fine line between confidence and arrogance. And players can't overstep that line because the minute they overstep that line, they're on the downward spiral. But a very confident player is the guy that you want. So very important that you project it with body language and not with mouth.
Yes, I've got Ayush Pandey, Arush Malhotra. I've got a few of lots of DC kids. Lots of your kids, Jagrit. Too many of them. Aman, Yash. I've got tons of them asking me the question that how do you handle pressure? So they wanted to relate that to the fact that they're saying, tell us how did ABD learn to handle pressure? Because at many times when he plays for the RCB, he is going in at the 16th over to bat in a T20 game, but still getting a 50. He's got 100 batting. So the fastest 100 that he got was batting at 35th over onwards.
Yeah.
And so many times you see him in chases, he's just so calm, cool, collected. But while there must be lava inside of him which wants to erupt. How do the best handle it?
It's all about championship mindset, and AB de Villiers has got that in abundance. He backs himself. He doesn't fear failure. He's ultra confident in the game that he has because of the fact that he's prepared. He's done all the work. He's prepared properly. And then he goes out and he just lets that genius take over. The best players in the world, in any sport, the Roger Federers, the that championship mindset is almost born in them. They love. I remember always having an argument with AB was when he just came into the South African side. If we were doing well and he started batting at number 6, if he walked into the wicket at 350 for 4, he would generally just play a bad shot and get out. But let AB de Villiers walk in at 60 for 4, and he'd invariably get you 100. He just had a little switch that in the pressure situation, he backed his ability to come through. And that is championship mindset, which he's got in abundance.
Yeah, agreed. And I've got David Smith now coming in from Sevenoaks. I think that's somewhere in England. And
Kent.
Kent. Okay, he's from Kent, and he wants to know, as a coach, if he's developing 2 batsmen to open the innings, how does he make them actually develop as a pair, and what to talk to them, how to get them to start batting together? I think, and I'm envisioning what he wants to know. I think he wants to know about, and this is what a lot of coaches want, that how do you make sure they know when to pick the singles, milk the bowling, as they say, and when to go for it, when to be the aggressors, and how to play on a certain track. How do you get them to play together?
Well, look, invariably, a lot of the time, their games would be slightly different. So you find that they complement each other. And that's why left-hand, right-hand opening combination is generally very good, because it makes bowlers change their lines and change their lengths every ball. And if they can be knocking ones and getting singles and rotating strike, well then you starting to win the battle. But you'll generally find that opening batsmen complement each other, and they always together, because I think it's one of the hardest jobs in international cricket is going out and facing that new ball all the time. So the time that they spend together and the friendship that they develop, they take out onto the ground. And ultimately, they'll know where the guy's one option is, where his boundary option is, and they will help each other through those tough times. And that's just a relationship that's developed over a period of time.
Yes, and so Jagrat, can you recollect any circumstances where you had a good batting partner? Do you think you needed to be friends with them, or it was okay to show up one day and say, "Fine, I'm the lefty, get me a right-handed guy and let's get going"?
Okay, now in addition to what Mickey just said about the left-hand, right-hand combinations, it's a great coincidence that it happened with me. That one of my best batting partners back in first-class cricket used to be a right-hander, Unmukt Chand, the former Under-19 World Cup winner for India. So Unmukt and I, so the lowest partnership we ever had was about 67 or 68 runs. That was the lowest partnership we ever had. And somehow we were able to just, complement each other so well, because every time we used to travel, we used to be roommates. He was from the same school as me, although he was like much junior. But then, we were such great friends, even in spite of that age gap that we had. We were such great friends off the field. And Mickey rightly said it, that, you need to understand the person, not just from the point of view of their game, but also from the point of view of their emotions and their behaviors and their characteristics, because that is all, coming together when you're playing a match, because all of those emotions, all of those characteristics to reflect in your batting or your bowling or your fielding. So just because we knew each other so well, he would just understand from my behavior if I'm uncomfortable against a certain bowler, and he would just come up to me and say, "Hey, buddy, let me take him on." And similarly for me, if I saw him in trouble with some bowler, I would say, "Buddy, I'll take this one on." And that way, we used to, form a great partnership. So it was great, and that's the beauty of team sport.
Yes, I know. And just last 2 questions. I think we're almost hitting 6 o'clock. So last 2 questions. One glaring question, Mickey, we'd like to put to rest for everyone is how much money is there in the cricket game for people to make? Whether you're a coach, whoever.
I've been very fortunate to have made a really good living out of being a coach, but there's a lot of money in the game now for players. A hell of a lot of money with the leagues that have come in. International cricket, guys get paid extremely well now, but you have to earn the right. You've got to do the apprenticeship. You've got to do the hard yards. And if you do the hard yards and you develop yourself and you make sacrifices along the way, ultimately, at the end of the day, you can make yourself a very good living at the moment.
Excellent. So you're saying that you don't necessarily need to be a player you can be on the admin part or an umpire, and there's enough work around the world these days, right?
At the top level, there's enough work, and even in the lower levels, and there's enough money to keep you comfortable.
And Samir, one more important thing I would like to say from the perspective of Indian parents, because very important. We have been always asked these questions that, studies versus cricket. What do you choose?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say you don't choose one. Both of them have their own importance and they complement each other in a great way. Like Nikki said, there's so many leagues around the world. So what parents and children forget is that the kind of opportunities that lie within the whole ecosystem of sports, becoming a nutritionist in sports, becoming a sports presenter, becoming, a sports trainer, becoming an expert in biomechanics of sports. And there's so many related fields, that we see are now integrated and catering only to the sports market and some only to the cricket market. So for all of those things, to excel in that, you need to have the basic knowledge of the game, and that will always give you an edge above everyone else who's never played that sport. So just remember, make them complement each other rather than having the studies versus a sports thing. And sports instills discipline, it instills focus, it instills passion, and all of that eventually helps you when you study and give your exams. So remember, it's never versus; it's always with.
Yes, no doubt. And probably the last question of the day. Got so many, but we're gonna have to put a hard stop to this. Nikki, I've got the coaches union coming together. So there's a lot of coaches saying, "Why aren't you answering our questions? We need to learn about things." They've got a question which is very important, and we'll try. I'll request you to encapsulate it for now. But the question is, does a coach need a coaching philosophy, and if so, what is yours?
Yeah, a coach definitely needs a coaching philosophy. Definitely, you've got to stand for something. You've got to have a vision, because if you can't stand up in front of the players and tell them what a vision is, they'll go in all sorts of different directions. You've got to sell a vision to them. You've got to sell KPIs. You've got to sell goals, and then you've got to create that environment and structure that allows all those players to go out and fulfill their goals and become the best player you can be. It's got to be one that's open. It's got to be one that's where there's a lot of trust involved, and there's got to be a lot of belief in the brand that you want to play. And once you get buy-in from all the players, for me, it's about managing that environment then again. And sometimes it's with a stick, and sometimes it's with a nice arm around somebody to get the best out of those players. And then once you start ticking off goals along the way in your little progression as a team, it becomes such a powerful tool for you, because then everybody believes in you, in your vision and your direction and your philosophy. And once you get a dressing room believing that, the world's your oyster as a coach.
Fantastic. We have one last question. It's coming in from, this is absolute last. We'll have to put a hard stop here. I think we've taken enough of Jagrath and Mickey's time. Just one last question. We have Ketan, who's signed in from Nepal, and he's saying, can you please, I'm from Nepal, and for our Nepali friends, please ask this question. So we're going to do that as the last one. And we've got Nitin Nagpal from India asking the same question. They are saying, they're asking the question that, can you tell us how important fitness is in the game of cricket? We know that Virat Kohli has changed his life around completely, from what he used to eat, drink, how he exercised, and what his regime today is. Is that a must to play cricket? Because we know there are enough cricketers globally today who don't follow the same regime, but there are many West Indians who achieve the same kind of success in a T20 format. So can you answer this question for one of them?
Yeah, well, I think you answered the question there by saying achieve success in the T20 format. The longer the game goes, they're not fit enough. And this is not the West Indians per se. It's everybody. You need to be at the peak of your fitness so you can compete. A test match tests you mentally, physically, and technically for 5 days. You've got to be fit enough and strong enough to compete in conditions for 5 days. And fitness it was one of my non-negotiables with Pakistan, and it is with Sri Lanka as well. It's not necessarily as a tick box exercise. It means that when the guy's batting in 35 degrees heat and he gets to 50, he has the stamina and fitness to keep running the ones and twos and turn that 50 into an 80 or 100 that wins you games. It's about the bowler when the game's on the line, having the fitness to push through and bowl that extra over, having the concentration in the levels at 5 to 6 in a test match after a long day in the field, when that sharp chance comes to you. It's being awake and alive enough to take that catch. So fitness for me is a non-negotiable because you can control it, but you can control it in order to get a better result for you technically. So that's where fitness plays a role. And once I got the Pakistan guys believing that, they became better players because they did start turning 70s into 100s in Dubai when it was 40 degrees. They did start bowling the long spells when we needed them to bowl long spells to win games. And when those sharp chances presented themselves at 5 to 6 on the night of a long day in the field, they had enough in them and enough energy still to be able to take that catch. So that's why you do fitness. It's not a box ticking exercise. It goes hand in hand with perfect preparation to make you the best cricketer you can be.
Yeah, what a valuable point there. And just on an ending note, Jagrat, do you agree with that? Do you think that you worked as hard at your time on fitness that if you would have been younger, you would have worked harder today?
I think if I was younger right today, I would have worked harder because back in the day, there wasn't much exposure to such elite level of fitness trainings. And, it was mostly what, most of the trainers would teach us. But there's so many new things that have come in now. Thanks to IPL as well. A big thanks to IPL for that, for getting so many different kind of fitness curriculums now and making the aspect of fitness so important and making people realize, like Mickey just said, that each and every player needs to realize that, every time they work harder in the ground, not just towards their game, but, running harder or doing the exercises right, it's eventually going to help their game. So yes, I 100% agree with Mickey, and I wish that I had the same kind of webinar where I had someone like Mickey, and I was one of the students watching it and understanding the importance of fitness.
Well, we've achieved that today. We've achieved that very goal today, and on this note, I think we're way past the 6 p.m. time. It's just the questions kept rolling in. Thank you everyone for joining us at Cross Border Cricket for this event. It's just been a pleasure. I think 2 hours, more than 2 hours just flew by. We've just had so many questions. Jagrat, I really appreciate yourself, the DC Cricket Academy, and everyone else, all the kids that have come into the academy as well. It's just flooded us with questions. Brilliant. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Samir. It's been an absolute pleasure. And of course, learning so much from Mickey as I go back today. There's so much more that I've learned about cricket that I probably didn't learn in the last 25 years. So thanks, Mickey, for such wonderful insights.
Pleasure, Jagrat. No, thank you. Thank you. I look forward to coming to your academy and working with you guys one day.
Oh, we can't wait for it. Trust me.
Good.
Yeah, that'll be brilliant. And Mickey, I can't thank you enough for taking out the time to do a webinar like this at your stature with your sort of achievements. You don't know what you've given to people who've been watching this event today in terms of knowledge.
No, thank you to Cross Border Cricket. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Jagrat, thank you. I've enjoyed listening to you. Been an absolute pleasure, guys. And
thank you so much.
For everybody that listened to us and took the time out to have 2 hours with us, I hope everybody has got a take-home message and go home richer for the experience.
Yes, I'm sure we'll need an encore of this. I have a feeling, because I've got so many questions coming in. My question wasn't answered. We apologize. We tried our level best. I think we covered over 60 people in terms of questions. So we tried our best. But I think
you need to multiply with that number by 5, because there are a lot of people asking similar questions. So yes, we've been able to answer so many more questions. And once again, thank you so much, Cross Border, for pulling together this initiative and getting someone as highly qualified as Mickey, and such a great human being. He's a great coach, we all know, but such a great human being. So modern,
thank you.
So helpful. So Mickey,
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
We will catch up with each other, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. All the people who supported us in this exercise: Malaysia Cricket, DLCL, Bush, MCC, Kenya Cricket. Above all, what they have done is fantastic as well. Everyone, thank you so much. Bye then. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
See you.
See you.
Bye bye.